I'm Superman.
Yo, what's up guys? Sorry for the wait, but we're finally back for another long video. So like always, kick back, relax, get you some Minute Maid. And again to my multitaskers, put me on while you work, do your chores, do whatever you need to do while we continue to rank every Superman knockoff based on their bad deeds, morals, beliefs, and values that I could not get to in the previous video. Last time around we focused on how sinister these knockoffs can be. But this time, our focus is shifting more towards controversy, meaning a lot of characters that we'll be covering are often hated or debated upon for one reason or another. Like this one knockoff that cheated on his spouse while she cheated on him and then offed themselves on live TV in front of everyone that loved him. Ones that threatens kids and beats up animals and even blew up their home planet and afterwards did horrific things to their parents. Plus, not only is this the people's choice, which means all of these characters were picked by you all, but we're also adding characters that tend to cause debates on whether they should be considered a knockoff of Superman in the first place. Like for example Goku and how they have the same origin story, Saitama and All Might. I'm also throwing in the comic versions of Homelander and various Invincible characters this time around since I finally read the comics. And yeah, with all that being said, let's start with someone that will put even Billy Batson to shame with how nice he is. Like, I'm talking super Weenie Hut Jr. level nice. For the controversial edition of the moral hierarchy of Superman knockoffs 2. Also smash that like button, bro.
Shut up, Mimsy!
Look, up in the sky. It's a bird.
It's a plane!
Brother, I tell you, this is the most upstanding Superman knockoff I've ever seen. Like, y'all recommended me this, and I instantly knew he was gonna be #1 because he's just what happens if Superman never became Superman and he just stayed in Smallville. My boy was left on a doorstep by his superpowered mom who thought she couldn't take care of him, raised to do one good thing a day, and now as an adult, he's a superpowered gas station attendant, and all over his small town, he's saving cats from trees, finding people's missing kids and husbands, which by the way, this dude left his family to start another family with another woman, which is wild. He ruined that dude's life. Walked through a drive-thru just to buy food for the people behind him. And look at that smirk, bro. He genuinely loves this. And he keeps a track of all of it in his little notebook of good deeds. Like, there's no trace of deception. He's so genuine it hurts. Throughout the comics, he hasn't killed a single person, and he's really quick to forgive the person that outed him to the news in the first place, which is what set off a whole chain of events that led him to Russian confinement. So for this video, he is without a doubt the most moral, and if I put him in the previous ranking, he's going right behind Shazam and Superior, because Shazam wasn't corrupted by a weapon that was made by freaking Hitler like Superman was, and because Superior sold his soul to save the entire city.
Superman.
Next is the Powerpuff Girls, and I have no idea how I forgot about them in the last video, but they're one of the most good-hearted characters on this list. Literally being born using kitchen ingredients and an unstable chemical, they came out the beaker wanting to help people after some soul searching. They save their town almost every day, and even though they're kids, they always learn from their mistakes. Like when they got manipulated by a villain to think that all men are bad, which I don't remember this episode at all. They treated every man like garbage until they got an intervention from all the other women and learned about equality and women's rights. And they stuck to it throughout the show, which is something I can't say about Underdog, which is why he's third. The origins of his drug addiction and how he even got his powers in the first place are unknown in the old show and the comics. But in the movie, he was a police dog that was doused with random chemicals in this man's lab. Ever since he could remember though, he had the morals of a saint and was based off of Superman in every way. The reason he's under the Powerpuff Girls though is because if you've ever seen the old cartoon, you'll know that the amount of property damage this man does would make the Avengers jealous. Like, he just causes too much damage and even hurts people whenever he tries to help them. But the worst part about it is that he does not care. Like, he literally says that that's not a concern to him.
Oh, pardon me, then I must flee.
Pardon you? What about my thankful?
Sir, I am a hero who never fails. I can't be bothered with such details.
He's extremely altruistic, pure-hearted, and duty-bound when it comes to his morals like the Powerpuff Girls, but he just doesn't learn from his mistakes nearly as often and becomes better for the people he's protecting, which is why he's here. And if he was in the first video, he'd go right between Blue Marvel and the Samaritan.
Jesus Christ!
Next is the Utopian. And y'all, I had no idea what Jupiter's legacy was until y'all brought it up, but it's a legit show. In the show, the Utopian is a hero with very high standards. He's the best superhero alive and has been for 90 years. In the 20s, where people hated on black people just because they were different, he was one of the only guys that treated them as equals, which shows how humble he is. When he got his powers, he chose to go by a strict moral code to never take any life. Since he's getting up there in age though, he wanted one of them to replace him when he was gone, but he was so serious about this no-killing rule that it caused so many family issues.
It was the bad guy. We're supposed to get the bad guy.
We have these powers for a reason. And with great power comes
Great responsibility.
No. Well,
Plus, the reasoning behind his no-killing rule is largely because of the death of his father. That trauma is what spawned this strict rule. So he hasn't killed and has a strict moral compass that developed after the death of his father. And that right there makes me want to put him here because he shows signs of just being against killing in general, but you still don't know the reasoning behind that rule yet. Like, he could just be a really good guy, or he's only like this mostly because of father trauma. You know, I can't really tell yet, which is why I'm gonna put him here. Alright, now it's time to speed this up. Starting with the Silver Sentry from TMNT, and oh man, I used to love this show when I was a kid. But the thing with this character is that his origin never really gets explained. And when it comes to his morals, he's very one-dimensional, which means he wants to save people and that's it. He barely appears in the show, but he hasn't killed, so he's gonna be here. Same thing with Ultimos from Ben 10, but he relies solely on the Galactic Code of Conduct instead of thinking things out for himself. So his morals are all tied to this book. Since he's a hero though who prioritizes the safety of others and has saved countless lives and even planets, the best place to put him is here. Miracle Guy. He's the knockoff from the We Can Be Heroes movie. He's cocky and hates my boy Shark Boy, but his top priority is to keep the city and his son safe. So his morals are pretty good in my book, and we don't really know anything about him other than that. Then y'all brought up Steve Stronghold. Wow. I haven't seen this dude in so freaking long. He's from the Disney movie Sky High, and he hasn't killed anyone either, but that's all we know about him. Overall, he's a hero who fights for justice. And it's the same with these last four characters, like his son Will Stronghold, and Man from The Incredibles who died from a cape malfunction. Diamond from Powers, another obscure one. Detective Walker used to have superpowers until he lost them in his memory during a battle, and there's no other information about him though, other than the fact that he's immortal, and he's been different heroes throughout the years, like Gore, Gora, Blue Streak, Diamond, and Millennium. And lastly, out of these four, we have young Miracle Man, who is an orphan turned hero that died but then got revived and had good morals until he was kissed by his childhood hero, bro. And now he wants to pretty much be Satan.
That'll do it.
It'll all make sense once we start talking about Miracle Man, but since his morals are up in the air right now, and he technically hasn't killed anyone yet, I'm gonna put him here. Now we can get to the next characters who have very good morals but has killed for one reason or another. And some of these are considered controversial. Let's start off at the top of the list with All Might. Just to squash it right now, All Might has nothing to do with Superman. At least that's what's believed since the creator said he was based off of Goku. But even if he said that, you cannot deny the inspiration, bro. Like, All Might's smile is like Superman's shield on his suit. Whenever he's around, you know everything will be okay. That's what All Might is all about. His altruism and desire to be a symbol of hope and represent what a hero is supposed to be is how he's without a doubt anime's real Superman. It is not Goku or anyone like that, bro. But he's down here because apparently he's killed someone. And I had no idea. I'm caught up in the anime, but I've never seen him kill anybody, or at least I don't remember it. I got this from you all. So if y'all said it, I'm gonna put it. And if I was to put him in the first video, he would be at the top of that section as well. He only narrowly beats the one, the only champion of justice, Saiyaman. At times, he's a mild-mannered family man, but when the world needs a savior, or when Goku needs to train, he's your man. He's Saiyaman. And he's killed a few people, bro. But the thing with Gohan is that he's closer to Superman than Goku could ever be. He was taught the value of life and the beauty of preserving peace from a very young age. Not only that, but his father is freaking Goku, so he's inherited a lot of his good nature. But the difference is, and I'm not saying that he's a bad guy because he's not, but Goku has killed more people than Gohan, and he's left his family without thinking about their well-being a few times already, while Gohan would never do that. Anytime he used lethal force, he did it purely to save others, which is something he got from his dad. But unlike Goku, he doesn't put others in harm's way just to fight stronger people, or leave his family without thinking about the consequences, because he's more thoughtful and compassionate than Goku is, and has been since he was a kid. He's there for his family and even became a superhero because of how strong his morals are. So even though he's technically not a Superman knockoff, to me,
You are the father!
Now, comic Invincible. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't read this comic yet, but when it comes to Mark, morally he's driven to do the right thing and save as many lives as possible, but to the extreme, you know? And in the comic, that's really his downfall. A lot of people tell him that. In the beginning, his moral code didn't let him see that sacrifices can lead to the peace and prosperity that humanity as a whole strives for. Until further down the line after his conversation with Omni-Kid, which I will get to later, and the benefits of the destruction of Las Vegas, which would mean a new solar-powered station large enough to power the entire country, which would save an immeasurable amount of fossil fuel and many other benefits. After this event, Mark started to understand that sometimes that is necessary. And that doesn't mean he's gonna go around killing people, far from it, nah. He's just more willing to take a life if it means it will save more lives as a whole. So like killing villains when he has to. Overall though, morally he is amazing, and I would honestly put Invincible at the same spot he was previously in the last video. And also, if you want to start collecting the old and new versions of the Invincible comics yourselves, you can using this channel's affiliate link at Apotheosis Comics. It helps out the channel and you support a small business, so it's a win-win. Now next we have someone that y'all probably didn't expect, but it's Hancock. And to be honest, morally he's one of the best people on here, because this man has lived for thousands of years now, and then he got amnesia and lost his memory. But in every life he's lived, he's always been a hero, and that means something. Then when he got amnesia and lost his memory, he didn't know that she was his wife and that they're bound to always be together. But even knowing all that, towards the end of the movie, he gave it all up so that she can be happy with a whole other guy, and still dedicated his life towards heroism. He's a really good dude. The only thing that gets him down here is that I know for a fact this man has killed people. There's no way he couldn't have. With the way he treats these people in this scene, or the fact that he's shoved people's whole heads in another man's butt, someone has to have died. And then on top of that, this? Like, bro, come on. I'm pretty sure he killed people. Let me know what y'all think. But right after that, we have Omni-Man. Comic Omni-Man, actually, and he's not what I expected. He's next, and I was expecting him to be the same ruthless Viltrumite he's been for the last thousands of years. But no, he realized how wrong him and his people has been for so long, and genuinely feels bad about his actions. So he takes steps to make those things better, which is something I respect a lot. And it's all because he realized that his true happiness was on Earth, with his family the whole time. So he goes back, patches things up with his wife, improves his relationship with Mark, and the best part is that he becomes a great dad towards Oliver, even though he spent many years away from him. He becomes so compassionate that he's a completely different person from how he used to be. Or better yet, that was just the real him. This is even more apparent when he becomes a compassionate leader of the Viltrumites and gives them the free will to choose their own destinies on Earth. So yeah, he's a good guy now, like caring, compassionate, and dedicated to his people's safety. He's always fought for other people, to be honest, but now it's for the right reasons. But with One Punch Man though, he's a bit weird. I'm not caught up just yet, but from what I do know, Saitama is a hero for fun. He's extremely altruistic and prioritizes saving the innocent, and doesn't mind killing monsters to do it, having killed so many already. But at the same time, he's also looking for a strong opponent to make him feel alive again. So a lot of his actions are based off of that desire. The more heroic traits are there, but it's something that even himself isn't fully aware of just yet. So
You are not the father!
Because their motivations couldn't be any more different. Plus, the creator even addressed this and said he was based on Amp-Man, who's a hero that pulls off parts of his face and gives it to the poor. But since it's the people's choice, he's here. And if I were to put him in the last video's list, he would be right behind Supreme. But at least he doesn't endanger his entire universe to fight stronger people. And that's what puts him over Goku. And hear me out, he's a great guy, very honorable, selfless, more than most. And though he will kill, it's not something he's proud of, since he'll only do it to protect the people he loves or protect himself. But man, he's the only character I know that's willing to give an alien that can destroy the world a way to completely heal himself, endangering his son and literally everybody else on Earth. Or set up a tournament to where entire universes can be destroyed, including his own, and leaving his family numerous times without thinking about their well-being at all. Like, come on, bro. Goku is something else, but there's never any malicious intent when he's doing these questionable acts, you know what I mean? Also, some people consider him a knockoff of Soups because they practically have the same origin story, but after that, they walk very different paths. One's motivations are more altruistic, seeing his powers as a responsibility and uses them to fight for justice, becoming a symbol of hope, while the other is motivated by self-improvement and the love for fighting in and of itself, and protects the world whenever he needs to. Like, there's definitely some similarities between these two guys, but they couldn't be any more different, really.
You are not the father.
Now we finally get to the man on the cover art, Miracle Man. He is someone that was brought up a lot in the last video and is a knockoff of a knockoff, being an orphan that used a special word to transform into an older, more powerful version of himself. He debuted as Marvel Man in the early 50s but was changed to Miracle Man after legal disputes, and was a hero of heroes that went on various adventures saving people along with young Miracle Man and Kid Miracle Man as the Miracle Man family, until he was set up to die from his creator by the use of a whole atomic bomb. Young Miracle Man died from the explosion, and we'll get to Kid Miracle Man later, but himself survived but had amnesia, and his kid form lived on until he stumbled upon his magic word again. And that's when he gets more morally ambiguous, because the first thing he did was knock up his other form's wife. But it was consensual on both sides, which is good, you know. But then he kissed his arch nemesis, as well as killing all of his men after he found out that he was made in a lab, and that his entire life was all a simulation. After he found out about that, he talks about how he believes he's a god, but doesn't form like an evil kind of god complex. You know, he's more curious about his origin more than anything. And he even left his wife and newborn child to find out more about his true origin. And once he came back, his wife left him. He defeated an evil, more powerful god with the help of others, and went on to make the world into his own image. This man took over the world, but made it a utopia, to the point where he's the one people are worshiping, like there's churches after him, which is already wild. But despite those choices, he believes in free will and the goodness of others. He also deeply cares for his friends and family, and did actually build a world free of human illnesses, even after finding out his life was a lie. So morally, I'd say he's closer to the middle, bro, because he's actually making the world better. But at the same time, no morally just person is gonna kiss a man when you're already in a relationship, start shagging his own sister, and then kiss a teenager because she convinced him to, bro. Like, there's no way. And which, by the way, this kiss is what sparked the idea of young Miracle Man wanting to turn into this devil in the first place. He wants to be the serpent in Eden, someone Miracle Man can bounce off of, you know, like the counterpart. And it's really interesting. But it all spawned because of this man's actions. Still though, he's not entirely a bad person, he just makes some crazy decisions. And he does a lot more than Omni Kid from the Invincible comics. And again, another spoiler, guys. But yeah, he's a good guy, but he's a lot more analytical than Mark's ever been. And it's like that since he matures faster than a normal human, and for sure a Viltrumite. But his true line of thinking doesn't come out until he gets his very first suit and goes out on patrol with Mark, when he accidentally kills the Mauler twins. Mark asks why, Sway, like, for what? And he explains how this is something he actually should have done a while ago, since they've brought him to jail before and he always gets out, causing trouble and kills people. If you have just killed him after the first couple times, countless lives would have been spared. And I mean, technically he's not wrong. He very much believes in sacrificing a few to save the many, and will kill if it means saving lives. One thing to note too is that he does not care about humanity, and it's all because he thinks they're stupid. They kill and rob each other for no reason. You know, they don't value their own lives, so why should I? Or at least that's what he believes. But even with that line of thinking, he's almost always fighting on the side of good, and sacrificed himself to save his family. So at the end of the day, he is good morally. His thinking is just a little more cutthroat than others. And next up is Sentry. In the last video, I put him together with the Void, and some people didn't like that. They thought that I should have separated them. So since this is about us, let's do just that. Sentry is a drug addict that took the Sentry Serum, which is a serum that grants him more powers than Superman. But upon drinking it, he developed split personality disorder. One side being the Void, which I covered in the last video, but this time we're focusing on his other side, the Sentry. A hero that stands for truth and justice and wants to be a symbol of hope, but really can't because he constantly struggles with keeping in one of the most evil creatures in existence, knowing that if this thing got out, the whole universe would be at risk. And now, Sentry has killed people before. Some was his fault, others weren't. But the main thing is, though he has saved the world a few times, his mental struggles are really what puts him down here. And no offense to anyone with mental illnesses, you know, but when he's around, you can't help but feel a bit uneasy, knowing that a person with schizophrenia and agoraphobia, which are mental illnesses that cause false realities, delusions, hallucinations, and severe anxiety, as well as other symptoms, also has the powers of Superman. It's really reminiscent to Hulk and Bruce Banner, but on a larger scale, and you never know when he's gonna lose control. So because of that, I've gotta put him here. Now there's Marvelous Man, and he's pretty cool, but we don't actually know that much about him. We just know that he's an alien and he maintained world peace after he stopped World War III back in 1947. But then he killed himself on live TV after he was just tired of them all. And a lot of things led to his suicide, like being in a loveless marriage and his wife cheating on him with this universe's Aquaman of all people, and him cheating on her with the dude from Breaking Bad, which is crazy. And you know, he just said screw it. But in the process, he caused the world to go to crap without him. And even if you want to off yourself, which, you know, that's a terrible thing in and of itself, the fact that you do it on live TV in front of everybody is bad. So he's a hero that killed people in World War III, cheated on his wife instead of ending it after he learned she cheated on him, and committed suicide in front of every man, woman, and child in the world without caring about the damage it would do to his fans or how the world would fare without him. And I don't know, I gotta be careful for what I say about, you know, offer yourself, because I already got in trouble in the last video, but I just don't think he's the best morally. Like, I can't imagine Omni-Kid cheating on his wife. And more importantly, there's just something wrong about him offing himself in front of all of his fans. He should know that that will cause so much damage, so much trouble. I don't know, let me know what y'all think, but I think he's here. Now, Dr. Manhattan is tricky. I put him right in the middle because he's a man turned into a god. So his perception towards reality is vastly different from us humans. At first, he was your traditional hero, helping America win wars and saving others, until his powers grew and his understanding of the universe deepened. And now he's detached and driven by the grand scheme of things rather than empathy or human emotional concerns, since he can see the past, present, and future all at the same time. Which is why he chooses to not do the more morally just thing at times, which can be seen as cold and borderline evil to others. He's not evil though, because he does want to help humanity every once in a while, and I can tell that he has that desire to. But still, at the end of the day, I think Miracle Man is better morally, since he also has godlike powers, but has a much more active involvement in creating a new, better world. Dr. Manhattan's moral alignment is very subjective, and he just does his own thing alone 90% of the time. So because of that, I'm gonna put him in the middle, alongside Young Nasty Man, which, you know, what a name. This dude is one of the only enemies the Miracle Man family has ever faced, and was created for the sole purpose of prolonging this man's life. He was programmed as just a villain for them to fight in the simulations until he eventually woke up and just went crazy, wreaking havoc and killing people in the process. But the thing is, his mind was gone, you know, he lost his mind. He didn't know what he was doing. So you can't put any real fault on him personally, since he's only like this because of him. But still, even if he couldn't control it, it's still bad that he hurt people. So I'm just gonna put him in the middle for now. And now we're starting to get to the people that's, you know, not gonna lie, pretty bad for the most part. Like Captain Hammer from Dr. Horrible's Sing-Alongs, which is a great, like, movie, but I don't know, I just don't like musicals. Like, I could not watch this on my own. But yeah, this man is very much in control of his actions and is a hero for the most part. But over time, he let the wealth and fame get to his head. But the worst part is that he's willing to play with other people's emotions, like shagging his arch nemesis's crush just to get at him. Like, he does not care about her at all.
The hammer is my penis.
Okay.
He also gets this close to killing his nemesis after he sings about how he's better than everyone else. But then the gun malfunctions and it shot him, making him literally cry. He also indirectly killed the woman he was dating and didn't care at all about her well-being since he was too focused on himself. So morally, he's terrible, but he still does choose to save people, so he's not the worst in the world. Unlike Major Man from the Powerpuff Girls, who's a little worse because even though he hasn't killed anybody, he also didn't save anyone either. He staged every save he's ever done and only became a hero for fame and fortune. But just like Captain Hammer, he's not the worst guy because as soon as he was outed by the Powerpuff Girls, he just straight up dipped. He didn't say anything else about it. But I gotta say, this next character is a little worse. And first off, he has a crazy name. Like, are y'all ready? His name is Super Delicious Yusai Golden Special Reserve Gorgeous After Kit number 28. And yes, that's his actual name. He's in a company full of scammers that scams little kids into buying their robotic suits, and he's the 28th member. He acts friendly and charming, and is this protector of truth and justice, when in reality he preys on the gullibility of little kids. He's a scummy guy through and through, and he's basically what happens if Superman was a scammer. But at least he isn't like Superman from Dragon Ball that actually threatens kids and hits animals, bro. Like, you gotta be a special kind of crazy to do that. Man literally put a gun to a kid's head because he wanted him to beat up this turtle. And then when the kid didn't want to do it, he just started beating him up himself. And even though he has shown that he's selfless to an extent, like, I actually do think he wants to save people, the fact that he did that to a kid, bro, really puts him down on the moral scale. But yeah, the previous two did some crazy things to these little people, but at least they don't beat their family like Mr. Legend from Tiger and Bunny. Yes! He was the first superhero of his universe, but he started losing his powers the older he got, and over time slipped into alcoholism and depression because of that. After being disappointed in how his life turned out, even though he has a lot of good things going on for himself, he began physically abusing his wife and son, leaving scars that hasn't healed till this day. After that, he was actually killed by his own son. And though I understand what he's going through, you don't put your hands on a woman or a child. And he should know that, especially with him being a hero. Maybe over time he would have realized the error of his ways, but you know, we'll never know, he died, you know. But it's still not as bad as being a full-on P3DO, bro. Because that's exactly what Captain Sunshine from the Venture Bros is. Like, the dude is a mix of Superman and Batman. He has sun-based powers and fits the archetype of Superman, living in a golden fortress of solitude, while he also sometimes drives a car, wears a mask, has the fortress look like the Batcave, is super rich, has a butler, and cycles boy sidekicks that he lubes up and sleeps with, bro, literally. That's why he's down here, because the dude's a creep. And to be honest, I don't know how bad this thing is compared to domestic violence, because they're all bad to me. But right behind this man, we have Superior from The Tick, and again, he didn't do nearly as much as the others, but throughout the show, he noticed that The Tick and Arthur over here were kind of taking his shine, you know? And he just went down a downward spiral after that. So he kidnapped people, broke into people's homes, and forced Arthur to give him therapy. And the biggest thing here is that he was going to fly around the world to reverse time just so people would love him again. And he didn't care what the consequences could be. Like, he literally says that if humanity dies, then you know, it is what it is. And that's because he really doesn't have any empathy. He felt like he was in the right the entire time. And that is why he's here. Because his morals are so skewed to where he's willing to kill humanity if they don't love him. And the only reason he didn't go through with it was because the Galactic Police stopped him and took him to jail, you know? But okay, now that we're done with the crazy people, let's move on to the more sinister knockoffs, you know, like the ones that really lack empathy. Like Public Spirit from the Martial Law comics. Public Spirit is someone that was forced by his parents to get experimented on for money, along with someone else who became his best friend. Over time, their relationship grew and they eventually became lovers. He also became the most successful hero since he was being branded as the first superhero. But his desire to be successful and his fear of not living up to everyone's expectations trumped everything else in his life, which is why he wanted to go on a space mission to escape the eyes of the public. a mission that would take him 2 years to complete, but on Earth, it would actually be 25 years. But when his lover turned fiance told him she was pregnant and didn't want an abortion, he tried to kill her and his unborn child because he thought she was trying to baby trap him, when in actuality, she just wanted the baby. I don't know anything about kids or even having a kid, but this feels like this is a decision that they should make together. But instead of trying to listen and understand, he immediately tried to kill her. And after thinking she died, he went to space and came back after 25 years and became idolized. He started taking steroids to push his career even further, but then he found out that his past lover didn't actually die. And after learning her true feelings, he killed her out of spite after she called him out on running away from his responsibilities. Then took more steroids and killed random people while calling them all this word and pervs until he was put down for good. And I don't know about y'all, but anyone that's willing to deliberately hurt or kill others for the sole purpose of getting more successful in their career is not a good person morally, bro, because they're only driven by greed and selfishness. But having a god complex is a different thing entirely, and these next knockoffs have that, or at least it was developing. Like Andrew from Chronicle, another great character that y'all recommended who is not a Superman knockoff, or at least I don't think he is. But yeah, this man had a terrible home life. His father was physically abused, and on top of that, he got bullied at school and was the main person that took care of his dying mom. His two closest friends were his cousin and his friend, and after touching a space rock, they gained the power of telekinesis and formed a stronger bond while they became stronger themselves. Also, out of them three, he had the most talent, showing his control and precision with the power at a much faster rate than the other two. Soon, he gets popular for the first time of his life because of it. Then he threw up on a girl, and afterwards, felt like he was right back to where he started. Having everything you've ever wanted slip through your fingers so quick can cause anyone to go mad, and that's what happened to him. Afterwards, he kills his best friend who was just trying to be there for him in his time of need, stands up to his abusive dad in a very violent way, and starts using his powers to steal money to help his mom. While doing it, he got hurt, and once he woke up in the hospital, he killed more people until the very end when he was impaled by his own cousin. And now, to be honest, he wasn't a bad guy at first. He's more of a victim of circumstance. But the one thing you can control is your response to a situation. And he just didn't respond in a morally just way. But since he's an angsty teenager, he gets a little more of a pass. You know, I mean, at least compared to a fully grown adult or someone who's pretty much a god, like movie Icarus. Someone who betrayed and killed his kind to ensure the emergence of a new celestial, which would in turn destroy humanity as a whole. Which, yeah, for anyone who hasn't seen the Eternals, these godlike beings called the Celestials made the Eternals hundreds of millions of years ago. And in this movie, the Eternals are on the celestial side. But over time, after being on Earth, a lot of them sided with humanity. Except for Icarus. For millions of years, he's been lying to the closest thing he has to a family, looking at them in the eyes the whole time, and even killed one of his own for his loyalty to the Celestials, to ensure that their mission to destroy humanity for the emergence of a new Celestial ends up happening. And at the end, after he betrayed and killed his kind, he did feel disappointment in himself, and in his shame, he flew to the sun like Icarus from Greek mythology and died. So the fact that he feels bad alone tells me he's not the worst person in the world, and I do understand that you were being loyal to the people that made you, you know, like, that's a good trait to have. But bro, you just did too much already, you know? And you were fully aware of lying and killing your own kind and essentially destroying humanity. And of course, y'all tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't know, you know, I gotta put him down here because he just did too much already. Good movie though, I liked it. It was a little long, but you know, it was a good movie. Then we have Infinite. And the reason why he's under Icarus is because he never felt bad about killing his friends. But yeah, basically this man is a black Superman who turned to more radical ways in order to save humanity. While spending years being a traditional hero, he started to understand that there's a cancer in humanity and that he's the only person who can heal it by developing a machine to destroy all the world's guns and technology and letting him be the god that everyone else follows. One particular old teammate always knew a day like this would come because he could tell that he had a dark side. An old friend called him a tyrant after he figured it all out, And he killed him too, like it was nothing. And he also lied about having a weakness. Like this low vial is supposed to be like his kryptonite, but he only told people that to give everyone an illusion that he can be stopped back then whenever he was a traditional hero, when in actuality, nothing makes him weak. Which is cool, but I don't know, you know? That's some Sister Sage stuff, bro. It's so smart that it's unsettling. Why would you think to do that in the first place? You know what I mean? Like, I have a lot of questions, but just like Alpha 1, he's driven by a desire to save humanity because he was tired of the whole superhero thing and it not leading to anything substantial for the world. Which is something I cannot say about our 5th place spot, comic Homelander. And there's actually a lot that's different about him from the show. Like how he was made from Stormfront's DNA, who's a man by the way, which is something they don't really get into in the show. But they did both grow up in a cold, lonely laboratory, which is why they lacked empathy in the first place. But this lack of empathy is very apparent even in the beginning of the comic, and he doesn't care about public opinion nearly as much as he did in the show. And it only gets worse throughout the comics as he starts becoming more disconnected with humanity with his growing god complex and the loss of his sanity, which I'll get to soon. Towards the end of the comic, he acts on these feelings of superiority and wanting more for his life by rounding up all the supes and forming a coup against Vought. And after he killed a random family by dropping him from the sky, he then killed the President of the United States, all to proclaim his dominance on humanity, which is a lot more morally corrupt than anyone else because his mind is more developed than a teenager, which means he'll make more conscious decisions. And he doesn't have any good motivations at all. He just wants to be above everyone else. But while he was working up the nerve to go against Vought, he was also losing his grip on his own sanity. And it's all thanks to our 4th pick, comic Black Noir, who, again spoilers, is a clone of Homelander who was made as a contingency plan to kill him if he ever went rogue, which is why he always stayed close to him. But years went by and the man never showed signs of becoming evil, which drove Black Noir insane. So he decided to do the worst kinds of actions in order to provoke Homelander into acting out, so he could finally act on the mission he was born to do, like framing Homelander for all the times he R-worded and murdered multiple civilians, one of them being Becca Butcher, which led to her death after childbirth in this, and deliberately making a man go insane just to have purpose in your own life. Because of Noir, Homelander questioned his own sanity and actions. He couldn't trust himself anymore, which is one of the biggest factors that led to Homelander's big breakdown at the end of the comic. So Noir is completely irredeemable in every shape and form. No morally just person or clone would deliberately cause someone to lose their mind by framing the most heinous acts on him, which is why he takes 4th place. And now, here we have it, our top 3. Let's kick it off with someone that y'all would not have expected, and it's Captain Hero, bro. You're not supposed to take this man seriously. But the thing is, he puts everyone else to shame, bro, because he literally did more evil things than anyone else on this list. But that's because he's not the sharpest tool in the shed and doesn't think about the consequences to his actions, which makes him incredibly impulsive. Captain Hero is a Superman knockoff from the show Drawn Together, and he has the same origin as Superman, but somehow the Doctor just knew he would be the lamest hero ever, and that's why his parents sent him to Earth. Their planet was fine, like they just didn't want him. After learning that, the man tried to prove he was a great hero by hiring his friend to kidnap his mom just so he could save her. But what ends up happening is that he pulls out the man's guts and gets found out.
Xander, you... Oh yeah, I forgot it was you. We set this whole thing up.
Motherfucker!
The mom says, "You suck, I wish I never had you." And Captain Hero gets so mad that he literally says screw you and this planet and threw the whole thing in the sun, killing who knows how many, but it's in the millions. And afterwards, knocked out and R-worded his own parents. He even bit his lip, bro. He's also a known P3 file, a zoophile, which means you get it on with animals, a necrophile or necrophiliac, I don't know what that's called, but it just means you get it on with dead people, and killed numerous people in terrible ways. But I can't in good conscience put him at number 1, even though he kinda deserves it because he doesn't really do a lot of these things out of malice or evil intent, you know? Like it's literally just shock factor. And he's just not that smart, you know? He's incredibly selfish. But that doesn't excuse any of his actions, which is why he's number 3. At number 2, we have Thrag. and he is hardcore. He's the previous leader of the Viltrumite Empire and did whatever he had to ensure the survival of his race. After a merciless upbringing, he developed a cold, calculating demeanor, and through his ruthless actions and strong rationale, he controlled the Viltrumites with an iron fist, and dedicated his life to prolonging and expanding the Viltrumite Empire by murdering the weak to ensure birth of the strong, the enslavement of other races, and later on, after he was overthrown, made an entire army of children from the planet Thraxa and used them all to build the new Viltrumite Empire to essentially take over the galaxy. And now he claims that everything he does is for the Empire, when in actuality, it's all for himself. I'm not going to deny that it may have started like that whenever he became the leader of the Viltrumites, but over time that changed. And that greed, you know, him wanting to take control of every other planet while putting on the guise of wanting to save the planet and his empire, is what puts him down here. And on top of that, he traumatized hundreds, if not thousands of his own kids by sending them all to their own deaths without even caring enough to learn any of their names. And the worst part is that the kids know this. All they want is for him to acknowledge him. And just so that can happen, they'll gladly give up their lives for him. He sees them as expendable soldiers while they kill themselves, thinking that that's the only way he would love them. All to take over the galaxy and expand his influence. And see, this is why I love him, you know? He's one of the best characters in Invincible. Y'all let me know if y'all want me to do a character analysis on him, because I'm not even close to done with this dude, you know? But without a doubt, he's number 2. But before we move on to number 1, let's go to the honorable mentions. And I was going to have them compete in different categories, like who's the strongest, fastest, all that, but I decided for it to be in its own video. But yeah, in this portion, no script, but here are the honorable mentions. First is the last son of Alcatraz, and I literally don't even know where to start with this one. Like, I tried to understand the whole Nixon mythos, but that stuff was so confusing. Like, he turned into, I think he was a hero, and then he turned into like a chair or something. No, he turned into a house. So okay, he was a hero, and then he turned into a house on an ocean, and then turned into Jesus or something like that, or the Crescent King. I didn't understand it. If someone else can explain that to me, that'll be great. But that's why he's here, because man, I didn't understand it. Next is Captain Dynamo, and honestly, I wish I had more time for him. From the looks of it, he has the same powers as Superman, but also has telepathy and can shapeshift, which is pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie to you. But yeah, I just didn't have time for him, honestly. But it looks like he's a good guy. Then we have the American, and what even is this? I just didn't have time for him either. But it looks like we have a Justice League that is just purely American. Liberty Lady, the Eagle, you know, that's Batman. America's Vengeance, wow. The American, and then Home Runner. This is so funny, but it's actually kind of cool. And the reason why everyone else is gonna be on here is because of time constraints. I just didn't have enough time. Yeah, we got Magno, the Magnetic Man, Captain Future, which looks kind of cool, Ralph Hinckley, which just looks like some random dude, Thunderman, Captain Cosmic,
Nice.
who looks legit, by the way. He looks pretty freaking cool. Super Sam from the Fairly Odd Parents, which I can't believe I forgot him, to be honest. Super Duck, and Captain Elmore. Now let's finally get to number 1, and that goes to the one, the only Kid Miracle Man. And again, he didn't do nearly as much as Captain Hero did, but out of everyone here, he is without a doubt the most twisted character on this list. After the Miracle Man family got nuked, young Miracle Man died, and Miracle Man himself lost his memories, while Kid survived and just decided to never switch back to a normal human form. This prolonged exposure to godlike psionic powers that not only grants him the same powers as Superman, but also genius level intellect, electrokinesis, and a host of mental powers that only get stronger the older and more experienced he gets. And after the death of the only people that grounded him, his mindset shifted from a bright, optimistic, and innocent kid to an arrogant, conceited, and power-hungry man. He controlled the minds of business partners and employees, as well as using his intellect to build a major corporation, killing any employee who may have found out about his powers along the way, and took sadistic pleasure doing it. Then after finding out about the man he looked up to was alive, he fought and brutally demolished Miracle Man, all while threatening to kill his wife. endangering random civilians, like when he literally threw a kid so hard to the side of a building that when Miracle Man saved him, the kid had several broken ribs. And the worst part is that you can tell by the way he talks to everyone, even the kid, that he's incredibly smart and devilish. And he did all of that to prove a point, to prove his superiority to his mentor. He completely destroyed Miracle Man and was just about to kill him until he gloated too much and accidentally said the magic word, Miracle Man, and he reverted back to his previous kid form. Then while trapped in the mind of the kid, he tormented, threatened, and manipulated him into switching until he finally did in order to not be R-worded by these freaking crazy teenagers, dude. What the heck? And the first thing he did was kill those kids and the only other person that was nice to him just for the fun of it. And he knew she didn't deserve it, and then destroyed the entire city of London, causing horror and destruction in a mass scale and killing so many people. I don't even know how many, until he was eventually killed by Miracle Man and 3 other characters in the comic. And what puts him at number 1 for me is how malicious and corrupt he is. He's a demon in every shape of the word. He even looks like one. And to me, he's actually more evil than the Plutonian, even though the Plutonian killed a lot more people. And that's because it feels like he finds even more pleasure from doing the most morally corrupt things imaginable. He's willing to kill kids, destroy cities, and do it all for his pleasure and personal gain and amusement. And towards the end, he turned into a monster, not even saying sentences that make sense anymore. So without a doubt, he is the most evil Superman knockoff on this list, which means these two are the winners for the most good-hearted and the most evil Superman knockoffs on the controversial edition of the Moral Hierarchy of Superman Knockoffs 2. First off, my bad. You know, this video took so long to make, and that's because I needed some time to do all the research, and I also wanted to learn from the criticism I got in the first video. And good news, I got a UX design internship, which is crazy. I've been trying to do that for like a couple years now. So that's cool, but that also means for the next couple months, I'm gonna be doing that, school, and YouTube. So y'all please bear with me. Also, tell me who y'all think is the most good-hearted and evil Superman knockoffs, as well as any mistakes I made without being too crazy, please. And I also have a TikTok for the channel now. I barely post on it right now, but I plan on talking about random comic facts, shows, and movie updates and edits, you know, all that cool stuff. So follow me on TikTok when you get the chance, and let me know some other contests y'all want to see. In the meantime, I'll be working on videos for The Boys, character analysis, which Lantern Corps Omni-Man would go to, Superman knockoffs at the Olympic Games, the moral hierarchy of Batman knockoffs, you know, a bunch of videos, man. It's crazy. But yeah, till then, I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace out.